You stand alone at the edge of a cliff, watching the horizon as the first light of dawn spreads across the land. The sky deepens in soft pinks and golds, and the world seems both expansive and strangely shallow at once. In this quiet hour, your heart awakens to a subtle truth. Love feels different now. It is no longer the casual spark that once warmed the soul. It is deeper, heavier, and more luminous. And with that depth comes a distance from the world you once belonged to. You feel love differently, and the world seems shallower. The laughter of friends, the familiar gestures of intimacy, the comfort of routine companionship, they no longer satisfy in the way they once did. Your heart perceives layers, subtleties, and unspoken currents that others overlook. An ordinary connection begins to feel insufficient. You crave a resonance deeper than mere attention, a bond that touches the core rather than dances on the surface. Awakening changes the heart's capacity. It enlarges perception while shrinking tolerance for superficiality. You notice the hidden motions behind smiles, the silent fears behind kind words, and the unconscious agreements that shape interactions. You cannot unsee these patterns, nor can you ignore the sensitivity they awaken within you. Love, in its ordinary form, now feels like an echo of what the heart truly seeks: authenticity, presence, and depth. And so a subtle solitude emerges, not loneliness born of despair, but the quiet separation that accompanies insight. You recognize that your heart has grown beyond what the crowd can offer, and that those who remain asleep in their illusions cannot meet you at this level. This is not judgment, it is awareness, a recognition that depth must sometimes be held quietly within oneself, until it finds a mirror capable of reflecting it fully. The horizon stretches endlessly, and you feel the paradox of awakened love. It liberates you from shallow expectation, while simultaneously exposing the scarcity of authentic connection. The heart becomes a vessel that can hold more than it once could, but it also notices the emptiness where once it felt fulfilled. And this recognition is both poignant and serene, a bittersweet awareness that love's depth brings its own quiet isolation. By the time the sun fully rises, painting the world in gold, you understand that the awakened heart cannot settle for the ordinary. It must wait, it must discern, and it must recognize that distance is a sign of growth, not a flaw. The first sense of emotional separation from others is subtle, yet undeniable, a gentle cue that the heart now navigates a world of greater perception. And in that early light, you realize awakening has changed your capacity to love. And in this change lies both challenge and possibility. As your heart learns to hold depth without attachment, and to wait for resonance that matches its own awakened clarity, you sit among people, listening to the familiar cadence of conversation, and notice an emptiness that was always there, but now cannot be ignored. The words seem light, rehearsed, predictable. The laughter feels like an echo, and the gestures, once comforting, now appear hollow. The social rituals, the daily niceties, the casual compliments, all of it passes through you, yet touches nothing deep. The awakened heart perceives what the unawakened cannot. It recognizes repetition where others see spontaneity, politeness where others see warmth, performance where others see intimacy. Small talk, once sufficient, now feels like a veil, hiding the depth you crave, masking the currents of consciousness that pulse beneath. You realize that craving authenticity creates natural isolation. The depth of perception that brings clarity also separates you from interactions that previously felt effortless. The people around you are sincere, perhaps, but their lives are anchored in patterns that do not reach the profundity your heart now seeks. And in this awareness, a quiet sorrow emerges, not bitterness, but recognition of distance that cannot be bridged by desire alone. Repeated patterns reveal themselves in every relationship. Friends who once seemed familiar now feel limited by habit. Romance, once a dance of connection, now falters under the weight of insight. You notice that conversations rarely explore the contours of feeling, rarely confront the shadows within. and your heart longs for depth, a resonance that echoes your awakened state. Yet the ordinary world offers only surface reflections. It is here that solitude becomes inevitable. The gap between what you feel and what the world can provide cannot be ignored, denied, or forced closed. To cultivate authentic connection, you must first honor the space created by the absence of superficiality. Solitude is not rejection, it is preparation, the quiet ground in which your capacity for true intimacy can grow. The paradox of awakened love becomes apparent. As your heart expands, as your awareness deepens, the familiar no longer satisfies. The world continues unaware, moving in repetition, while you observe, detached yet tender, seeking resonance that matches the depth you now carry. And in this seeking, you understand, true connection requires patience, and not all hearts are ready to meet you at this level. By the end of the day, you sit quietly, watching interactions unfold without participation, and feel a strange mixture of grief and clarity. The loss of superficial connection is not absence alone. It is a necessary space for authenticity to emerge, and in honoring it, the awakened soul begins to prepare for relationships that are real, deep, and fully alive. Two hands reach out in the dim light, hesitant, trembling, hovering in the space between touch and withdrawal. The desire for intimacy is strong, but so is the awareness of risk, of exposure, of being misunderstood. The awakened heart knows that true connection is rare, and that revealing its depth requires courage few possess. Love is no longer casual. Every glance, every word, every gesture carries weight. The heart perceives what others often overlook: the subtle fears, the unspoken truths, the hidden current of emotion. And in this perception arises caution, a gentle hesitation to open fully, lest the tender depths be met with ignorance or rejection. You feel the tension between desire and self-protection. To offer your full presence is exhilarating and frightening. To withhold it is comforting and lonely. And here lies the paradox. The very depth that enables authentic love also creates vulnerability, and the awareness of that vulnerability often causes the heart to hesitate. You notice the world is unprepared for this intensity. Many are not ready to meet such openness. They recoil from depth, hide from emotion, or unconsciously project their fears onto those who seek connection. The awakened soul must navigate this landscape carefully, learning patience, discernment, and the subtle art of presence. If you have ever felt your heart pause, unsure whether to open fully, tell me below. Your words might remind someone else that they are not alone in the quiet ache of longing. There is beauty in this hesitation. The fear of vulnerability is a guardian, protecting the heart from unready eyes while guiding it toward resonance. The mature soul learns that love cannot be rushed, forced, or demanded. It unfolds only when readiness aligns. Patience becomes a vessel, courage the key, and authenticity the gift that blooms in its own time. You realize that intimacy is not merely physical or conversational. It is presence, the full, unguarded self touching another, without expectation, without control, without pretense. And yet, each step toward this openness is a negotiation with fear, a quiet balancing of heart and mind, desire and discernment, courage and caution. By the end of the evening, hands may touch or they may not. It matters little. What matters is the willingness to risk, to reach, to feel, to stand in the space between isolation and connection, and to honor the depth that both challenges and sustains the awakened heart. Authentic love demands patience, resilience, and courage. It is not won by force, nor found in haste, but in the quiet commitment to meet the world with a heart awake and a soul ready to trust. Slowly, gently, fully. You notice it quietly at first, the way a partner's eyes flicker when you speak with honesty, the subtle withdrawal of a friend when conversation turns to depth, the gentle recoil when you reveal thoughts that pierce beyond superficial comfort. Being fully awake complicates connection. Your presence, once welcomed, now feels intense, challenging, even uncomfortable to those unprepared. Love, for the awakened, demands more than appearances. It asks for honesty, transparency, and the willingness to meet another soul at the level of truth. Yet, many are not ready for this. The depth you carry is luminous, but it can cast shadows on those unaccustomed to reflection. Even those closest to you may falter under the weight of your clarity. And you realize, softly but irrevocably, that presence itself can alienate. You observe the subtle patterns of withdrawal. A partner avoids a question. A friend redirects the conversation. A loved one laughs to mask discomfort. These are not betrayals. They are signals of imbalance, indicators that their world cannot yet contain your awareness. And here lies the challenge. The awakened cannot compromise depth without betraying authenticity. The very honesty that fosters true love can, paradoxically, create distance. Acceptance becomes essential. You learn to meet this reality without judgment. Temporary incompatibility does not signify failure, nor does it diminish your capacity to love. It is simply a feature of awakening, the natural consequence of moving faster in consciousness than those around you. You begin to honor space as much as connection, presence as much as patience, depth as much as gentleness. The heart learns a subtle balance. To be fully present without insisting on reciprocity, to express truth without demanding acknowledgement, to offer love without controlling its reception. This is the paradox of awakened relationships. The more awake you are, the more conscious you must be of the limitations of others' readiness. You notice how life rewards patience and humility in these moments. By allowing others their own pace, by holding your clarity softly, you maintain authenticity while fostering compassion. You discover that love is not measured by constant closeness, but by the steadiness of presence and the integrity of engagement. And in quiet moments, when the intensity subsides, you see that these challenges are not obstacles, but invitations to grow in empathy, patience, and discernment. Love remains possible, even luminous, when the awakened heart recognizes that its presence is as much a gift as a test, and that true connection requires maturity, courage, and grace. The awakened soul learns that the challenge of presence is not a barrier, but a teacher. It shapes patience, refines perception, and deepens the capacity to love without clinging or compromise. In accepting the difficulty, you find freedom and discover the subtle joy of loving authentically. Even when the world cannot fully meet you at your depth, you sit in silence beside another, sharing a moment that requires no words. The air between you is alive with awareness, a subtle, luminous connection that does not demand anything, yet feels profound in its presence. The awakened soul begins to see love not as possession, but as alignment, an offering of attention, compassion, and mutual growth. The old patterns of attachment begin to dissolve. No longer does love feel like currency, or a score to be kept, or a dependency to be fulfilled. You notice that controlling, clinging, or demanding diminishes the beauty of connection, and that true intimacy arises in the gentle space of freedom. Love, in its awakened form, is both generous and unobtrusive, allowing each person to flourish within the shared presence. You observe subtle gestures, the soft nod of acknowledgement, the quiet patience, the respect for silence, the gentle holding of attention without judgment. These are the new signs of connection, the markers of a love mature beyond ego, beyond expectation, beyond the need to control outcome. And in noticing them, your heart begins to open with calm and clarity. Love becomes a practice of presence. You are fully aware of yourself, fully aware of the other, and the interaction is measured not by fulfillment of desire, but by the space created for authenticity. There is joy in observing growth in another, gratitude in sharing unspoken understanding, and satisfaction in witnessing connection flourish naturally. You begin to see the paradox of awakened intimacy. The less you cling, the more love flows. The less you demand, the more freely the heart responds. By releasing expectation, you allow empathy, trust, and appreciation to deepen, and relationships transform from obligation into resonance, from dependency into a shared vibrancy of life. In these moments, subtle growth emerges. Each gesture of care, each act of patience, each unspoken affirmation becomes a pathway for both souls to explore depth and awareness. Love, in its most refined form, is not about acquisition, nor about filling gaps in self. It is about presence, subtlety, and mutual respect. And you realize that this is only the beginning. By cultivating love in this conscious, luminous way, you are learning to move beyond attachment and fear toward freedom, understanding, and authentic connection. The heart no longer clings or demands. It simply is, allowing space for intimacy to unfold naturally, without force, and for the awakened soul to engage in love without losing itself. Here, in the quiet glow of shared awareness, the first seeds of true connection are planted. Love is no longer a game, a possession, or a mirror of need. It is an alignment, a mutual unfolding, a luminous presence that honors both the self and the other fully. The sun rises over quiet waters, spilling gold across ripples that stretch endlessly toward the horizon. In this stillness, you feel the subtle pulse of time, the gentle heartbeat of life itself. The solitude you once feared is now recognized as a teacher, a space in which the awakened soul learns patience, discernment, and depth. It is here, in the quiet reflection of self, that the capacity for true love is prepared. Distance, once uncomfortable, becomes a necessity. It is not separation in bitterness, but separation in awareness. The awakened heart understands that intimacy cannot flourish where the self is fractured, where dependence obscures clarity, or where fear dictates attachment. By sitting in quiet, by cultivating presence, the soul learns to engage with love fully, without clinging, without demand, without expectation. Love, in its deepest form, is a mirror. It reflects the wholeness of your being and asks nothing in return. It is only when you are complete, luminous in your own awareness, that the reflection can resonate with clarity and authenticity. Attempts to grasp love prematurely, to fill voids with attachment, result only in distortion, frustration, and distance. And yet, the awakening heart does not despair. It watches the world, observing patterns of connection and misunderstanding, and realizes that readiness cannot be rushed. Some hearts are asleep. Some minds are unprepared for the depth you carry. The gift of patience allows you to hold the space gently, to remain engaged yet unattached, to offer presence without forcing reciprocation. The waters beneath the rising sun mirror this lesson perfectly. They move without effort, reflecting sky and light without clinging, flowing in harmony with currents unseen, teaching the subtle power of release and alignment. The heart, when free from grasping, mirrors this movement, allowing love to arrive naturally when readiness meets presence. And so you learn the paradox of awakened love. To receive it fully, you must first be whole. To give it authentically, you must first cultivate yourself. Solitude is not abandonment. It is preparation. Reflection, self-awareness, and patience are foundations upon which profound intimacy is built. By mid-morning, the sun lifts higher, illuminating the still waters in sparkling light. You recognize that love, when it arrives, is not possession but resonance, not a need to fill, but a presence to share. The heart that has waited, that has grown through solitude, meets love with clarity, joy, and freedom. It engages fully without fear, giving without losing itself, and receiving without grasping. And in this quiet, luminous understanding, you see the truth. Awakening and love are not opposed. They are intertwined. Solitude refines the soul. Love enacts a harmony learned within. The awakened wait, not impatiently, but with serene anticipation, knowing that when love arrives, it finds a heart ready, free, and luminous. Awakened souls may wait, But when love arrives, it finds a heart ready, free, and luminous.